In an episode of The Simpsons, the early days before the show was ruined, Bart sells his soul to Milhouse, not realizing the inherent value he actually attaches to it.
There you go. 1 soul.
It was only a piece of paper after all, right?
It almost feels like you're missing something.
Perhaps not. Almost immediately, Bart is haunted with nightmares of personal isolation, and even in his waking hours, he feels the remorse of a deal he simply couldn't undo.
I kinda traded your soul to the guy at the comic book store. But look, I got some cool pogs. Elf pogs.
Elf Pogs, now there's a collectible to invest in. But it's not until the end of the episode that Lisa saves Bart from his existential turmoil by purchasing Bart's soul and generously returning it to him, thus resolving the conflict and bringing the episode to a close.
Yes, thank you. Happy to do it.
This episode teaches a valuable lesson. You see, we as collectors and hobbyists spend a lot of time researching prices, comparing sales data, discussing market trends, and executing strategic transactions. But rarely do we see the value through the eyes of a child. When I was 11 years old, I learned about value firsthand when I acquired this. Well, let's go back to the beginning first. It was the spring of 1999, and my best friend Kyle had invited me to his house for his birthday party. This was an annual tradition for us. We would stay up late, eating pizza, making forts out of his pull-out sofa in the living room, and playing video games until we passed out. This year, though, our agenda was a little bit different. Kyle had received an early birthday gift of 2 Pokemon-themed decks, a Brushfire deck and a Blackout deck. Naturally, we spent the better part of the night battling, though Kyle made me use the Brushfire deck for most of the night, which was a little unfair considering the obvious weakness to water. To add to the insult, he even removed the Hollows, the Hitmonchan, and the Ninetales from the game so that they wouldn't get damaged, but I digress. Nevertheless, we were instantly hooked. To make things even better, his parents were taking us to the local card store called Shinder's the very next morning for him to pick out some cards for his birthday. I knew about this ahead of time and scraped together all of my 11-year-old savings for the trip. In total, I had about $18, enough to buy my first Pokemon cards and finally join the upper echelon of my peers at school. I was excited for this. Waking up the next morning with a wallet full of cash was an unfamiliar experience for me, my first real taste of financial freedom. What I wasn't expecting, though, was to blow all of my money on one card. To this day, I'm not really sure what made me do it. I'd originally planned to buy some booster packs. Maybe it was seeing the sales associate unlock the glass display case and hand Kyle a brand new Blastoise and watching his hands tremble holding this treasure. Maybe it was my overall lack of experience with Pokemon and wanting something that was at least a little bit familiar. Maybe it was just impulsive 11-year-old decision-making at work. Whatever it was, though, it possessed me at that moment, and before I knew it, I was holding my first Pokemon card, a holographic base set Raichu. I emptied my pockets on the counter, and before taking the receipt and my new card like a fragile trophy out to the car, I looked at it. And for weeks that card traveled everywhere with me. It accompanied me to school. It even joined me on our family camping trip in the northern woods of Minnesota. I remember falling asleep on the small bed of our borrowed Winnebago, my slowly growing collection fanned out before me in the way most children would arrange their stuffed animals before going to bed. Even my parents were beginning to come around. My mom, who initially berated me for spending $17 on a piece of cardboard, let me teach her the game, how to play. My dad would never tire of inventing new mispronunciations of their names. Charred salamander, he would say, or charred lizard. It's Charmander, I'd correct him, before explaining the significance of Charizard and how I wanted one more than anything for my collection. What I didn't realize at the time was that my moment was coming. A few weeks after this camping trip, I was back to my usual summer routine. A steady diet of N64, football outside, yard games, and Super Soaker fights with the neighborhood kids. One of our favorite neighborhood activities, though, was to hop on our bikes and pilgrimage to Justin's house, the local Pokemon depot of our community. See, Justin's dad was the cool dad. He bought entire booster boxes for his own collection and gave the extras to his kids. It wasn't unusual for there to be anywhere from 6 to 10 kids there on any given day, talking trades, binders open, occasionally a little bit of trash talk happening between friends. On this day, however, I noticed that Justin had an extra Charizard in his trade binder. So I did as so many others tried unsuccessfully to do. Talk Justin into a trade. He was skeptical, but accepted my binder and started flipping through immediately. He stopped at my new jungle cards. I had a first edition Clefable and Wigglytuff, both holographic, and he wanted them, desperately. After intense negotiations, he offered his final proposal. His Charizard for my Clefable, Wigglytuff, Chansey, and Raichu. I felt my heart thundering. This was it. I was finally going to get a Charizard. I already knew I was going to accept the deal, but looking at my Raichu, a terrible sense of guilt and shame overcame me. How could I trade away my first card? My first real treasure? I offered Justin the other cards in my collection, but without the Raichu, there was no deal. I traded it. I walked away from the trade with a Charizard, the card I always wanted, but the cost was a part of my childhood, a part of my soul. I have to tell you guys, it didn't feel like a victory. Sure, the Charizard was more expensive, more sought after, but was it really more valuable? I learned at the age of 11 what most people don't learn in a lifetime. That value is not determined by market forces, age, rarity, condition. It's determined by our emotional connection, our memories, our experiences. You see, value and price are not the same thing. Price is what we are willing to pay or what we are willing to sacrifice, but value is why we are willing to do so. And when we really value something, the price doesn't matter. It took me the better part of the summer to get back my Raichu. I got a newspaper delivery route on Saturday mornings. It only paid $11 a week, but after saving some money, I bought back my Raichu card. This time it cost me $20, and even though it was in significantly worse condition than when I bought it the first time, it was worth every penny. Each scratch and crease, memories, whispering their stories of camping trips, birthday parties, my dad's playful teasing. Here we are 20 years later. I'm fortunate enough to own some very expensive and rare cards. But this card, this is my most valuable card.
But you know, Bart, some philosophers believe that nobody is born with a soul, that you have to earn one through suffering and thought and prayer, like you did last night.
Thank you guys for watching my story about my most valuable Pokemon card. If you guys are interested in seeing more videos, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below. What is your most valuable card? Thank you guys for watching, and tune in next time. This is Pokemon Classics, and we're out. Bye!